I had been planning my dream vacation for months, 2 weeks in Santorini, complete with stunning ocean views, endless Mediterranean food, and time away from the stress of daily life. Every spare dollar I had saved went into that trip. The tickets were booked, the hotel was paid for, and I had even lined up a few excursions, including a sunset cruise. It was meant to be my escape, a well-earned reward after a grueling year of work. That was until I logged into my bank account and saw the balance. At first, I thought it was a mistake. My stomach clenched as I refreshed the page, my breath catching in my throat. The savings I had meticulously built up, nearly $8,000, was gone. Completely drained. I felt a wave of panic wash over me as I scrambled to check the transaction history. And that's when I saw it, an $8,000 withdrawal made by my brother, Ethan. My hand shook as I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. It rang once, twice, then clicked. "Hey, sis." Ethan answered, his voice infuriatingly casual. "What's up? What's up?" I repeated, my voice tight with anger. "Ethan, why is my vacation fund empty? Why did you take my money?" There was a brief silence on the line, followed by a sigh. "Okay, listen, before you freak out." "Too late for that," I snapped. He cleared his throat. "I took it for something important. Something life-changing, actually." My heart pounded. What could possibly be more important than the trip I've been saving for? There was another pause before he finally said it. "I used it to buy an engagement ring." I couldn't speak. My mind struggled to process the words. He had stolen my vacation money to propose to his girlfriend? Are you kidding me? I finally managed to say, my voice rising. "Ethan, tell me you're joking." "I knew you'd be mad, but hear me out," he rushed. "I've been wanting to propose to Jenna for months, but I couldn't afford the kind of ring she deserves. I didn't know where else to get the money, and I knew you had it just sitting there." "Sitting there?" I nearly shrieked. "It was for my trip, Ethan. My money. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Calm down, I'll pay you back," he insisted. "Just not right away." "But it's for love, you know? I figured you'd understand." "Understand?" I was seething. I had been working extra hours, skipping nights out, cutting back on things I enjoyed to afford this trip, and Ethan had taken it all without a second thought. And for what? So he could buy a flashy ring? As the anger bubbled up, a cold clarity settled in. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was betrayal. And I wasn't going to let him get away with it. The savings I had meticulously built were gone. Every last cent. My hands shook as I scrolled through the transactions. A withdrawal, one massive, devastating withdrawal, had drained my vacation fund. Panic turned to confusion, and then to anger as I traced the transaction to none other than my own brother, Adam. Adam and I had always been close. He was the kind of brother who borrowed money and took forever to pay it back, but never anything like this. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling over the screen as I dialed his number. "Hey, sis," he answered cheerfully, as if he hadn't just committed financial betrayal. "Adam," I forced my voice to stay even, though my heart pounded. "Where is my money?" A pause. What do you mean?" "I mean the money I've been saving for my Santorini trip, the money you just stole from my account." Another pause, longer this time. Then, with an exhale, he muttered, "Look, I can explain." "You'd better." My grip tightened on the phone. What he said next sent my entire world spinning. Adam sighed on the other end of the line. "I didn't steal it. I used it for something important." I gritted my teeth. "Important? More important than the trip I've been planning for a year?" There was a long pause, then he mumbled, "I bought an engagement ring." I thought I had misheard him. "You, what?" "For Claire," he continued, as if that would somehow make this better. "I wanted to surprise her, and I didn't have the money. I knew you'd be upset, but I promise I'll pay you back." I was so stunned I could barely speak. My mind struggled to process the sheer insanity of what he was saying. My brother had stolen my hard-earned money, not for an emergency, not even for something we could both benefit from, but to propose to his girlfriend? You promise? I finally echoed, my voice cold. Adam, do you even realize what you've done? You didn't borrow money, you stole it. From me. And now you expect me to just wait while you figure out how to pay it back? Look, I'll get the money, okay? Just give me a few months. I let out a bitter laugh. Months? Are you serious? My flight leaves in 3 weeks, Adam. What do you expect me to do? He hesitated. Maybe you could reschedule? I saw red. I'm suing you. Sis, come on. I'm suing you. And I meant it. Adam left my apartment looking more panicked than I had ever seen him. But I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. He had stolen from me, his own sister, and now he wanted me to just let it go, because we're family? No. That wasn't how this was going to work. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured the beaches of Santorini, the trip I had meticulously planned for months, slipping through my fingers. The thought of canceling everything, of calling the airline, the hotel, and trying to explain why I suddenly didn't have the money, made me sick to my stomach. But I wasn't canceling. Adam had 48 hours to pay me back, or I was filing a lawsuit. The next morning, I sent him a reminder. 24 hours left. Any progress? No response. I went to work, tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting back to my bank account, to my stolen money, to the growing anger building in my chest. Adam wasn't taking this seriously. He thought I'd cave. He thought I'd let it go like I always had when he borrowed money and never paid me back. Not this time. That night, I gathered every piece of evidence I had, bank statements, screenshots of our texts, everything I needed to prove in court that he had taken my money without permission. Filing a small claims lawsuit wasn't difficult. I had already looked up the process. All I had to do was submit the paperwork, and Adam would be legally required to pay me back. Just as I was about to submit the claim, my phone rang. Adam. I answered without greeting him. Did you get my money? I've got part of it, he said quickly, like he was trying to get ahead of my anger. Just give me a little more time. My heart pounded. How much? 200. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone so tightly my fingers ached. 200? Adam, you stole $5,000. I know. But I had to put a deposit on the ring, and I cut him off. You didn't put a deposit on anything. You paid in full. With my money. There was a long silence. Then, finally, he muttered, I thought I could get a loan to pay you back, before you even noticed. I let out a bitter laugh. And let me guess, it turns out banks don't just hand out loans to people with no credit and no collateral? Yeah. I pressed a hand to my forehead. Adam, you do realize that in less than 12 hours, I'm filing the lawsuit, right? Sis, come on, he pleaded. Just give me a little more time. No. I gave you time when you took the money without asking. I gave you time when I didn't immediately call the cops. And you wasted it. He sighed. I can fix this. I scoffed. No, Adam. You can't. If you could, you would have already. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, Claire doesn't know. I froze. I never told her where the money came from, he admitted. She thinks I saved up for the ring. If you go through with this, if you make it public, I'll lose her. I exhaled sharply. You should lose her. She's engaged to a liar. She doesn't have to know. His voice was almost desperate now. Look, I swear I'll get the money, just don't do this. I shook my head. You're still trying to cover it up. Even now, when you know you've been caught. That tells me everything. I just need. I'm filing the lawsuit, Adam, I said coldly. Good luck explaining it to Claire. And this time I hung up first. Adam left without another word, his shoulders tense as he disappeared down the hallway. I shut the door and locked it, my hands still shaking. My own brother had stolen from me. I wanted to believe he'd make it right, but deep down, I knew better. The next morning, I gave him a chance. I sent him a text. Me, 24 hours left. Any progress? No response. By evening, frustration turned to fury. I wasn't bluffing, I had already looked up small claims court procedures. I gathered bank statements, screenshots of our texts, and everything I needed to prove he had taken the money. Then, just as I was about to submit the claim, Adam called. I've got part of it, he said quickly. Just give me a little more time. How much? I asked, my voice tight. 200. I nearly dropped my phone. 200? Adam, you stole $5,000. I know. But I had to put a deposit on the ring and... I cut him off. You had my money, Adam. You didn't put a deposit on anything, you paid in full. He groaned. I thought I could get a loan to pay you back, but my credit's shot. Just don't do this, okay? I swear I'll figure it out. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around my phone. I'm filing the lawsuit tomorrow, I said, my voice cold. Good luck explaining this to Claire. And this time I hung up first. Filing the lawsuit was easier than I expected. A few forms, a small fee, and suddenly, Adam was about to have the worst wake-up call of his life. Small claims court wouldn't land him in jail, but it would force him to pay up, and make his theft a matter of public record. When he got served with the official court notice 2 days later, my phone blew up. Adam, you really did it? Adam, this is insane. We're family. Adam, Claire cannot find out about this. That last message told me everything I needed to know. He hadn't come clean. And he never would, unless I made sure of it. Claire and I were particularly close, but she was kind. Sweet. The kind of woman who would never have agreed to an engagement if she knew the ring on her finger was bought with stolen money. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized she deserved to know the truth. So I told her. It wasn't dramatic or public, I wasn't trying to humiliate Adam, just to make things right. I met Claire for coffee and laid out everything, the missing money, the lawsuit, Adam's refusal to take responsibility. At first, she just stared at me, her face unreadable. Then, slowly, she looked down at the ring on her finger, twisting it absent-mindedly. He told me he worked overtime to afford this, she said quietly. I shook my head. He stole from me, Claire. $5,000. And he only had 200 to pay back. Her hands trembled as she took off the ring and placed it on the table. I need to talk to him. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I think that's a good idea. That night, my brother showed up at my apartment, furious. What the hell did you do? He demanded. I crossed my arms. I told her the truth. Something you should have done. Adam looked desperate, his face pale. She left. I hesitated. Left as in. She took her stuff. Called me a liar and walked out. He let out a humorless laugh. She said she couldn't marry someone who steals from his own family. I wanted to feel bad for him, but I couldn't. Not after everything. You did this to yourself, I said again, the same words I had told him before. Adam dragged a hand down his face. I'll pay you back. I narrowed my eyes. You'll have to. The lawsuit isn't going away. For once, he didn't argue. He just nodded, turned, and walked out the door. And this time I knew he finally understood, actions have consequences. The court date arrived faster than I expected. Despite all his protests and pleading texts, Adam didn't actually try to settle things before the hearing. Maybe he thought I'd cave at the last second. Maybe he assumed the judge would take pity on him. But I didn't cave. And the judge certainly didn't pity him. Standing in that small, fluorescent-lit courtroom, I laid out my case with confidence. I had the bank statements, the withdrawal records, the text messages where Adam admitted to using my money. The evidence was airtight. Adam, on the other hand, fumbled his way through a weak defense. It wasn't stealing, he argued. I borrowed it. The judge adjusted her glasses. Did you have permission from your sister to take this money? Adam shifted uncomfortably. No, but... The judge held up a hand, cutting him off. Then that's theft. Whether you intended to pay it back or not, the law doesn't distinguish between the two. Adam had no comeback for that. It took less than 20 minutes for the ruling to come down. Adam owed me the full $5,000, plus court fees. He was ordered to set up a repayment plan immediately, or risk legal consequences. The moment we stepped out of the courthouse, Adam turned to me, his expression somewhere between frustration and defeat. Are you happy now? I shrugged. I'll be happy when I get my money back. He let out a bitter laugh. I lost Claire. I lost everything. I raised an eyebrow. You took everything, Adam. You made your choices. Now live with them. For the first time since this all started, he didn't argue. He just nodded, shoved his hands into his pockets, and walked away. That was the moment I realized he wasn't just upset about losing Claire or the money, he was ashamed. Maybe for the first time in his life. The weeks after the court ruling were a strange mix of relief and lingering frustration. Winning the lawsuit didn't magically bring my money back overnight. Adam was legally required to repay me, but that didn't mean he had the means, or the willingness, to do so quickly. At first, his payments came sporadically. Small amounts, trickling in like an afterthought. $100 one week, $200 the next, never enough to make a real dent in what he owed. Every time I checked my account, it was a reminder that my dream vacation had been reduced to a slow, grudging repayment plan from a brother who had once been my closest friend. Excuses followed, one after another. His rent had gone up. His car had broken down. His hours at work had been cut. Each time, his words carried the same underlying plea for patience, for understanding. But I had no patience left. He hadn't been patient when he drained my account without asking. He hadn't been understanding when I was forced to cancel my trip. Now, the only thing I expected from him was responsibility. Claire had cut him out of her life completely. She had returned the ring, moved in with her sister, and refused to take his calls. The engagement had ended before it had even truly begun, and for the first time, Adam seemed to grasp the full weight of his actions. His charm, his ability to talk his way out of trouble, none of it had worked on her. She had walked away, and unlike me, she had no legal obligation to ever let him back in. The loss hit him hard. I heard through a mutual friend that he had moved into a tiny apartment with a coworker and that he spent most nights drinking alone. He had always been reckless, but now he seemed lost, as if he didn't know how to exist without someone to bail him out. Despite everything, I found myself wondering if he had learned anything from all of this. If losing Claire, losing my trust, and being forced to pay back every stolen cent would finally force him to grow up. I wanted to believe he could change, but deep down, I wasn't sure. Then, for the first time since the lawsuit, something shifted. His payments became regular, small, but consistent. There were no more excuses, no more last-minute pleas for extensions. He didn't reach out beyond the transactions, and I didn't push for conversation. We existed in a quiet, distant truce, connected only by the debt that still lingered between us. The silence between us wasn't just about money, though. It was the echo of a fractured relationship, a bridge burned by betrayal. Growing up, Adam and I had been inseparable. He had been my protector, my partner in childhood adventures, the person who could always make me laugh. Now, he was just someone I used to trust. Maybe, once the debt was paid, that would be the end of us. Or maybe, when all of this was finally behind us, we would find a way to rebuild. Months passed, and the debt slowly dwindled. The payments, once unreliable and inconsistent, became steady, a quiet acknowledgement of the damage done. Each deposit into my account was a small step toward closure, a reminder that while justice had been served, the scars of betrayal didn't fade as easily as numbers in a bank ledger. Life moved forward, but the gap between Adam and me remained. We no longer spoke outside of the necessary transactions, and even those were conducted through automated transfers rather than direct conversation. There was no apology beyond what had already been forced from him in court, no attempt to mend what had been broken. It was as though we had reached an unspoken agreement: he would repay me, and once the debt was settled, we would be nothing more than siblings in name. Claire, meanwhile, had moved on. She had left behind not just Adam but the version of herself that had believed in him. From what I heard, she had found a new job in another city, eager to put the past behind her. Adam had tried to reach out to her at first, but his messages went unanswered. Eventually, he stopped trying. As for me, I had started rebuilding, both financially and emotionally. I reopened my vacation fund, slowly watching the numbers rise again, this time with an extra layer of security that ensured no one but me could touch it. The dream of Santorini wasn't gone, just delayed. But the real challenge had never been about the money. It was about trust, about the painful realization that family wasn't always a safety net. Sometimes, family could be the very thing that dragged you under. The final payment came on a quiet evening, unceremonious, just a small notification on my phone telling me the last of the stolen money had been returned. There was no message from Adam, no acknowledgement that the chapter had closed. And maybe that was for the best. Still, despite everything, a part of me hesitated before closing the banking app. This was supposed to be the moment I had been waiting for, the final piece of justice, the last thread tying us together cut cleanly. But instead of relief, there was something else. An emptiness, a lingering question of what came next. Adam had made his choices, and I had made mine. We had fought our battle, and I had won. But winning didn't erase the loss. Whether we could ever rebuild from here, I didn't know. Maybe we never would. But maybe, just maybe, one day, we could try.